I'm Karen, and I am so glad to join you on this day of the WeVideo Creator Community Summit. One of the most important ways for students to retain knowledge is for them to rehearse and hear themselves when they learn content. As an English teacher and as a creative writing teacher, I always encourage my students to actually listen to that little voice in their head, because sometimes that little voice was telling a story, and if they recognize that and they acknowledge that, they could listen to the story and use that to write down their narratives. Well, podcasting is an interesting way to listen to that voice and also to give students the ability to analyze and think about their inner voice. And so I'm hoping to share with you several reasons why I believe it's valuable to use podcasting in your classes, and also to show you a few ways that you can do it using WeVideo, and also to show you some resources of a contest about student podcasters and some other resources that I've collected through Wakelet. We'll also be using Jamboard for you to ask questions, and if I don't get to them today, I will go back and check the Jamboard and respond to your questions on the Jam. So if you're interested, just go back and check it tomorrow. I'm not going to get rid of the Jamboard. It'll be there, so you can go back and look at what your classmates or your workshop mates have responded. I've asked people to put in what they feel and think about podcasting, and also if they have a podcast that they would like to share, including some of their tips and tricks or questions that you or they may have. So anyway, let's get to it. And here we go. So this presentation will be, this presentation is pre-recorded, and it will be played on the third day of the Creator Community Summit. And I hope you will go back and look at the slides. Every single slide is at this link, at the bit.ly link, podcasting WCCS 21. And I've also put a sample of our podcasts. I have a podcast with a teacher friend of mine, and also my social media contacts, and also our website. So I would love to hear from you, and let me know what you think of the presentation, and also how the podcasts are going and how your students are going. We have a Jamboard available, as I mentioned before, and all you have to do is either type in or click on this link in the presentation. It's a bit.ly link, podcast jam with a capital P and capital J. Once you click on it, it will take you to our Jamboard, and just use the sticky note, a pen, or text box to add your ideas or ask questions here. We also have a chat in the Whova program that we're using for this summit. So basically, here's the question prompt. Here are the sticky notes, and then there's also a pen you can play with, and also a text box. So enjoy and use the tool and enjoy. If you have questions about the Jamboard, I'm happy to answer that as well. Okay, so going back to our presentation, this is slide 2. I've also created a Wakelet collection with over 20, I think we're at 24 uh, resources and counting, but they are resources. They're sample student podcasts. There are YouTube videos about podcasting with students. There's Edutopia articles and also articles from TCEA, which is a rockin' good technology organization, association that is in Texas. It's the Texas Computer Educator Association, but they have a lot of resources for educators. And Wakelet is also, this is a public link. It's a fabulous resource, and click around once you get there. To use this link, you don't have to be a member, but basically it's a curation site, Wakelet is, but it's so versatile. I love tools that are useful, and they can be used for many different things. So it's a Wakelet is a collection tool that you can use with your students, with your teachers, or with your administrator even. Everyone I know who has tried Wakelet loves it. So enjoy. I may, if we have some time, go back and look at the Wakelet with you. Okay, so the components of a podcast are story, flow, and any possible technical components. This is the way I organize it in my head. The story is most important. Students need to learn how to tell stories. Some are very good at it. Some seem naturally good at it. Most are not. I am not a good storyteller. I'm getting better. I'm working at it, but it's something that I have to practice. And so that's also is very important to explain that with your students, that this is something they're not, most of them are not going to be good at right at the beginning. So as you develop storytelling, you can talk about the beginning, middle, and end. Just go basic storytelling techniques. You can talk about what makes a good story, things like that. You want to build up the story and not necessarily the tools or the technical parts of the podcast. Then there's the flow from beginning, middle to end. Now, every podcast is not the same, and that's the beauty of them, is that they are all different. But as long as the flow is recognizable, I think that the listener will be engaged in what the story is. Because sometimes we tell the end of the story or the rest of the story before we get to the introduction of the story. And Paul Harvey is a great example of a storyteller who told the rest of the story, which is actually a prequel to the story. But anyway, if you've never listened to Paul Harvey, look him up. He was a great storyteller and a great example of an engaging storyteller. And now, if you want to use podcasting with your students, I recommend you start with a simple project. Something not too complicated, something that all the students can understand what's expected of them. What is the learning objective this podcast will address? Is it learning how to recall significant details? Is it how to use voice and recognize voice in the story? Are they retelling a book that they read? Are they expressing an opinion about a book that they read? Are they doing a book talk? Many librarians I know have students come to the library and they have a little center where they have students do book talks. This is a great opportunity for a podcast. Number one, you get the students to do the work for you because they are excited about the books and they talk about the books to each other. And you know that will increase your library usage if you get students to talk about books with each other. And then it's students using technology and using their love of reading to encourage others to read. So I just think that's a brilliant idea. How will you measure mastery? Is it just having a finished project the very first time? Is it a big failure? You wanted to make a big mistake first so they learn something from it? I don't know. It's whatever you decide ahead of time. So start with a simple project. Determine your learning objective and how will you measure mastery? And what tools are available to your students? What kind of devices? Do they have iPads with recorders on them? iPads and Chromebooks and PCs have microphones and they have cameras. Most of them do. And so what tools do you have? How many devices do you have for your students? Well, you need to make a little station in the corner of the room. Or will the students have to go around a door and sit down on the floor and do their recording? So think of the logistics, think of things that go wrong, and think of ways that you can be there for your students when the things do go wrong, because they will. And this will all be new to them. Also, if you have one student who has a propensity and a great skill for figuring things out and leading others, they can be your techspert for the beginning round of this. But don't rely on them too much, because they really might want to get into the storytelling themselves. Then streamline the design and the learning curve, meaning don't give them too much to focus on at first. Focus on one thing at a time, getting their story down first, because that's what's important. Not only is that important, that's what helps build their confidence and their perseverance. When they start to feel successful, that's when you know you got them. They can practice with a friend. If you're limited with devices, they can practice telling their story and doing a dry run of their podcast with their teammate, and then they'll be all ready when they get their turn at the computer. And then give them simple rules to follow. Don't be too silly, and well, you know how to manage your class. But my point is, don't forget to directly teach how you want them to behave with this new task. Give them expectations. I expect by the end of the week that everyone will have a podcast episode ready. And then poof, you've got 15 episodes ready that you could put them in your drive. You can, depending upon your school accounts, you could put them on YouTube, unlist them, make them unlisted or private or public, whatever your school rules are according to YouTube and to the internet in general. But if you don't want to do all that, you can just record and save the recordings on a folder in your drive, and them that way. The students can click on them, make them available either through Schoology or through Canvas or whatever management system that you use. Allow the students to do their podcast in the classroom, and you can have story day or something like that at the end of the week. So that's something else that's a possibility. All right, another few tips are reuse some other tool that the students can already use, something that they're already familiar with, something like Flipgrid, or if they are already familiar with WeVideo, record the students using the video, whatever they're comfortable with, and then just save it as an audio file. And you can also play the video clips from the export section. And I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So you don't even have to go out on the internet or show them. All they need to know is how to record, and then they can listen to the podcast on the exports, in the exports gallery. Also, that builds the familiarity, the skill with the tools, which builds confidence, and the reflection, which is kind of that metacognition where students can think about what they're learning. They can do little podcasts about math problems that were giving them challenges before. And it allows them to get familiar and master the tools. And also remember, create a rubric for assessment so the students know what target they're aiming for. And also have them reflect. This, it sounds funny, even just saying it out loud. Reflect on the reflection. Because the students will be able to think about what worked, what didn't work, and any mistakes they made, and they will not make them again if they recognize that they happened, and they can make a mental note not to do that again. So the thoughtful moving forward is what gives your students that confidence. All right, next. At some point, let them fly. Let them choose their own topics, their own format, and their own topics to think about. Students will improve their own projects, especially if they feel passionate about it. And when you start to notice things like the students go home at night and work on it without having any other assignments or anything like that, and they come back and they say, "Hey, Miss Jackson, I noticed this," or something like that. That's when you know you've got them hooked, is when they're using their own free time to build and to create and to tell their stories. That's what's pretty exciting. Okay, so now about publishing, think about who will be your student's audience. Why? Why is that important? What kind of an audience would be important to your students? Will you use an intranet, which is basically just the internet that's within your campuses, perhaps a shared drive or something like that, perhaps just within Google Classroom or Apple Classroom or Canvas or Schoology or whatever your LMS is. Also, internet within Google Drive, Classroom, or share within WeVideo. So first I'm going to play a little clip. I was explaining to a friend of mine how to save a video clip, a kind of a little hack I use sometimes if I want to put a podcast on YouTube, because they only allow video. So I save first the video as a video, or and then I save it as a podcast, and I publish. I happen to publish with Anchor, which is also in the link in the resources. But you can also publish on YouTube as a video, but just have only audio and a static image. And so anyway, that's what this upcoming clip is going to be. And I'm just going to drop that down. I'm explaining to my friend Sandy about how to do this in WeVideo. And then I will show you about the export gallery, and we can talk about what's in there and how the students can access it. All right, next. At some point, let them fly. Let them choose their own topics, their own format, and their own topics to think about. Students will improve their own projects, especially if they feel passionate about it. And when you start to notice things like the students go home at night and work on it without having any other assignments or anything like that, and they come back and they say, "Hey, Miss Jackson, I noticed this," or something like that. That's when you know you've got them hooked, is when they're using their own free time to build and to create and to tell their stories. That's what's pretty exciting. Okay, so now about publishing, think about who will be your student's audience. Why? Why is that important? What kind of an audience would be important to your students? Will you use an intranet, which is basically just the internet that's within your campuses, perhaps a shared drive or something like that, perhaps just within Google Classroom or Apple Classroom or Canvas or Schoology or whatever your LMS is. Also, internet, within Google Drive, Classroom, or share within WeVideo. So first I'm going to play a little clip. I was explaining to a friend of mine how to save a video clip. A kind of a little hack I use sometimes if I want to put a podcast on YouTube, because they only allow video. So I save first the video as a video, or and then I save it as a podcast, and I happen to publish with Anchor, which is also in the link in the resources. But you can also publish on YouTube as a video, but just have only audio and a static image. And so anyway, that's what this upcoming clip is going to be. And I'm just going to drop that down. I'm explaining to my friend Sandy about how to do this in WeVideo. And then I will show you about the export gallery, and we can talk about what's in there and how the students can access it. Wait, did you hear me say save as a podcast? I meant to say save as an audio file.
So thank
for
you, Sandy,
use in a
so much for
podcast.
asking me this question
Sorry
about
about that.
WeVideo. I wanted to show you how easy it was to save something that you've recorded as a podcast. So even though you have all the video on the in the program, you can still save it as a podcast.
Wait, did you hear me say save as a podcast? I meant to say save as an audio file for use in a podcast. Sorry about that. For example, here are some clips I have just of different train sounds and just a clip right here, which is just a regular video clip. And I don't know if you can see this, but here is, okay, I'll share my screen with you in just a moment. So here is a story, the sound template. So I've got a sound and an image that I've dragged down, and I'm going to really quickly share my screen with you just so you can see. Okay, so here is our WeVideo screen. I have one image that I dragged down from the work area, and then also some sound. And so let's say I want to finish this as an audio only so that I can put it on my podcast. So simply, you just click audio only and all your other choices disappear, which is very useful. And then I can decide what destinations I want. I can either save them to WeVideo or to my drive, and then click down here on the right, export. Now, let's say I change my mind and I want to save this audio, this podcast to YouTube, but YouTube doesn't accept audio files. So all I do is I click on my one still image. So now it looks like WeVideo is acting like this is a video. So when I finish, I can say, oh yes, I do want this high definition video to play, and I can save it as well. And because my administrator has asked me to put everything on YouTube, I can click YouTube here and it goes directly to my YouTube channel, which is connected to my Google account. And then when I click export, I'm going to undo that just so it's not public. And there we go. And so now it's queued, and I can go back and do other things, and it'll WeVideo will send me an email when it's ready. So that's basically how you can save something as a podcast and also as a video to use YouTube to publish your podcasts. Does that help? Thank you so much. Have a great day. Okay, so we've talked about publishing. What I want to do is think about your audience and remind your students to think about their audience. Their audience is going to be teachers, students, and their community. No matter how it's published, these are the people that are going to be listening to them. So the regular podcasting will build the relationships between these three groups of stakeholders, and it will strengthen the connections between the students, the teachers, and the community. And I think it's so important that students realize that there is a connection there, and that these three groups affect each other, and that we can bring something to teachers and to our fellow students and to the community. Public service projects and things like that can be topics for the podcast as well as neighborhoods and our city and things like that. So very useful and very exciting to get students out and understanding the community and helping their communities. So strong student relationships improve their learning. It improves their listening skills and encourages resilience. And I'm not just talking about podcasts that have guests and guest hosts. I'm talking about improving the listening, that students have to listen to their interior voice and listening to each other to decide what topics are going to be relevant and interesting for their class. And the resilience is learning something new and moving forward with it. So practice in doing these kinds of things will help your students build those relationships in those three areas. This particular slide is the video that you just saw. So I've included it both in the slideshow and in the WeVideo complete video. But what I do want to show you is looking at WeVideo. We're going to jump on over to WeVideo, and this is actually the interface of what I'm using right now to record myself and to create this video. But because it's in the cloud, I don't have to worry about making a special save function or anything like that. I have a title on my project, on my particular edit, and I want to go to the main screen. So I click on WeVideo here, and this shows me the home screen. These are the templates, which are right at hand. And then down below are the last 3 or 4 or 5 projects that I've worked on. But look over here, exports. I want you to see this is where students will save their project if they decide if you decide that you just want to use WeVideo for their podcast project. So here are my exports. I just click the word exports, and it has every last one over here. And I can look at all the exports that I've ever saved, or just mine. The other would be like if I have a project with a group or something like that. Then if you go over here to the gallery, looks like no one has finished any videos yet. So I haven't published mine to a gallery because I was using mine for just work things and not for other people's enjoyment. So my exports is where I have all of my videos that I've created. Let me just show you what it looks like. I'm going to click on this one here. Okay, so now in the what I'm calling the gallery, I guess technically it's not the gallery, but it's where all the exports live. So students can share this video, this completed video, or the audio file that they've saved. And here's the link for that. Here's the embed code. If you have students create websites, they can embed their videos into their website, and it tells you the size, the width, and the height that the player box will be in your website. So I can copy the link to the clipboard and then close this. If your administrator has allowed it, your students may see Facebook and Twitter or other social media icons there. That means sharing this video on social media. So that's something interesting. It's another conversation you need to have a talk with your administrators and your team and parents and all your stakeholders. So now here, I love seeing these icons over here because this is really quick and it's a great way to share this information out. So I could share it with Google Classroom. I can edit the name and the description for my video right now. Or I can change the thumbnail, which is wonderful because let's say I wanted to drag this little circle along through the video to find an interesting thumbnail. You just go along and you find the exact one. What I usually do is I put a still image at the beginning and I put a still image at the end. There it is. So that I can choose the thumbnail. I use the same thumbnail every time. I'm very boring. So I can save that with the thumbnail that I want, and then I just click select, and then it changes it to the thumbnail that I just chose. So that's pretty cool. Then this one is change the privacy. Right now it's wide open to anyone in the world, but it's very easy to change just by clicking. I can change it to private. So your students and your teacher friends can learn how to do that as well. And this is where I can add to my gallery. So I just click that and it will go to the main gallery or to new playlist. Since I'm the only one in this account, I'm just going to say, stick it in the main gallery. I love it. I want to watch it. And so now I'll show you what it looks like when it's in the gallery. And now download. I can download this video. You can download your students' videos if they are in your school accounts, which that's another training. And I'm sure there are other trainings about that, about the school accounts. And then here is delete. I don't want to delete it because I want to save my video. And here's all the facts and the fun figures. This tells you if it's an MP4 or an MP3 audio file or not. And then so I go back here. Now when I go to home, I have something in the gallery now. So down here it says view gallery. Poof, there's my gallery. Now look at this. Doesn't this look the same? So the exports looks the same kind of interface, the same kind of choices here, but it's not technically the gallery. But anyway, this is what the gallery looks like. So going back to our presentation, let's go down one. So thank you for your time. I'll just go ahead and do this. Thank you for your time, and feel free to contact me if you have any questions or you want to share your success. I'll go back and look at the Jamboard. Right now I'm pre-recording this, so no one's on the Jamboard right now. I'm hoping that there will be someone adding to our Jamboard. What did you think of the presentation? There will also be a survey. I'm pretty sure there will be after you finish the session. I'd appreciate your comments. I'd like to get better. So please let me know what you think and drop a little encouragement if that's what you have to say. My Twitter handle is @CarrieWebb2004, and the link for this presentation is Podcasting WCCS21. So thank you so much for checking out the WeVideo Creator Community Summit, and this is 2021. This is second annual. I hope we have another one next year. I really love this team and this group of people. So questions about WeVideo, happy to answer. enjoy, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.